First of all, pleasure to be here. To give an outlook, I think I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you the parameters which really matter in the market. On one side, you clearly have all the impacts from the pandemic situation. That's one element. Then on the other side, you have also all the element on geopolitical issues. And thirdly, it's all about the central bank and monetary policy and fiscal policy. So obviously, these are the three variables which are going to determine really the market. I think in a nutshell, there is too much market consensus that inflation can be dampened to that. In my history, usually this is pretty difficult really to stop inflation. And I believe we will have a higher inflation rates for a longer than people believe. That means interest rates are going to increase. What does that mean? It means that obviously you'd like to be floating with an excess return, and that really speaks anyway for this asset class if you're first lien. So you have two options. You go defense or you go offense. I believe the so-called defense is a pretty good environment when you go first lien direct lending. If you go more offense, then you need to be open to invest into credit specialties, opportunistic credit, where the opportunity set is going to increase. Well, it's a tricky question because obviously it depends where you stand in your investment cycle, the experience that you have. That's one part. The second is also the size that you want to invest. Usually I say decompose complexity into simplicity. That means you need to know in what you want to invest. And I'm not going into usually generalists. I have the specialists, but also larger size of managers. That means if I go into the direct lending, I would like to have specialists on the direct lending side, but I deploy a lot of capital. That means they need to be reasonable in size and they need to have the track record. Specialists I really love in terms when they understand what they really do. And there's another element to that when you talk about specialty finance, that's a sub-asset class to that. So it's more first define the asset classes and then find the right talent and do the appropriate allocation. The first statement is credit is cyclical. And if you have cyclicality, obviously the distressed cycle is pretty late. Usually it's about 2.5 to 3.5 years after really the market starts to melt down that the distressed part becomes interesting, because that really means it's restructuring of balance sheet. Before distressed, you have stressed situation, market stress or company stress. And I think there you will find plenty of opportunities to come in the next 1 or 2 years, given that monetary policy, fiscal policy are going to change. There's not as cheap money for free for everybody. That means the first is stress. The other part is if you don't like volatility and you have certain reservation on stress and distress, you go into direct lending where you hardly have any volatility. But coming back to your question, I think the distressed market will have a revival to come, not in the short term, because restructuring is a question about time. If you shorten time, you increase the net present value, but that means it's a longer element, it's a longer technique that you have to apply really to get the decent return. I love distressed, but I also love performing loans.